On June 29, 1941, a boy named Stokely Carmichael was born in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago. His parents immigrated to New York when he was a toddler and left him in the care of his grandmother until he was 11 years old, when he followed his parents to America. He attended high school in New York City, and after graduating, he went to college at the Howard University. It was there that he joined the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, also known as SNCC. On June 5, 1966, an African-American man named James Meredith started a solitary march against fear from Memphis to Jackson to protest against racism. Soon after starting his march, he was shot by a sniper. When other civil rights campaigners, including Carmichael, heard the news, they decided to continue the march in Meredith's name. When the marchers got to Greenwood, Mississippi, Carmichael and some of the other marchers were arrested by the police. It was far from the first time that Carmichael had been arrested, and on his release on June 16th, he gave his famous Black Power speech.
The political parties in this country do not meet the needs of people on a day-to-day basis. The question is, how can we build new political institutions that will become the political expressions of people on a day-to-day basis? The question is, how can you build political institutions that will begin to meet the needs of Oakland, California? And the needs of Oakland, California is not 1,000 policemen with submachine guns. They don't need that. They need that least of all. The question is, how can we build institutions where those people can begin to function on a day-to-day basis, where they can get decent jobs, where they can get decent houses, and where they can begin to participate in the policy and major decisions that affect their lives. That's what they need, not Gestapo troops, because this is not 1942, and if you play like Nazis, we're playing back with you this time around. Get hip to that.
Carmichael states that the political parties of our country are inadequate when it comes to meeting the daily needs of the people. His allusion to World War II has two effects. One is to give African Americans a sense of justification in refusing to just sit back and accept the abuse and punishment many of them receive from racist white Americans. The other effect is giving a sense of shame to white racists who are being compared to the Nazis that killed so many innocent people in World War II. His use of an afro when he repeatedly asks his audience,
"How can we build new political institutions?"
draws the audience in. He asks their opinion on what they need, and then he tells them what they do not need. By doing this, he guides their opinions more toward a violent response to racism.
The war in Vietnam is an illegal and immoral war. And the question is, what can we do to stop that war? What can we do to stop the people who, in the name of our country, are killing babies, women, and children? What can we do to stop that? And I maintain that we do not have the power in our hands to change that institution, to begin to recreate it so that they learn to leave the Vietnamese people alone, and that the only power we have is the power to say, hell no to the draft. We have to say to ourselves that there is a higher law than the law of a racist named McNamara. There is a higher law than the law of a fool named Rusk. And there's a higher law, the law of a buffoon named Johnson. It's the law of each of us. We will not kill anybody that they say kill. And if we decide to kill, we're going to decide who we're going to kill. And this country will only be able to stop the war in Vietnam when the young men who are made to fight it begin to say, hell no, we ain't going.
Carmichael denounces the war in Vietnam. By claiming the war is illegal, he offered a logical reason to oppose it. By claiming it was immoral, he offered an emotional reason to oppose it. His use of the word murder further supports his claim that the war is immoral and illegal. He declares that opposing the war in Vietnam is the moral thing to do, and that it will only stop when the young men who are forced to fight start to refuse to fight.
There isn't one organization that has begun to meet our stance on the war in Vietnam. Because we not only say we are against the war in Vietnam, we are against the draft. We are against the draft. No man has the right to take a man for 2 years and train him to be a killer. A man should decide what he wants to do with his life. Anyone fighting in the war in Vietnam is nothing but a black mercenary, and that's all he is. Anytime a black man leaves a country where he can't vote to supposedly deliver the vote for somebody else, he's a black mercenary.
Carmichael garners sympathy from the audience by describing just how unfair this war is for African Americans. What is the point of fighting for someone else to be able to vote if you yourself cannot even do so? Why should African Americans be forced to fight for someone else's right to vote when they can't? Thankfully, Stokely Carmichael's dream of African Americans being able to vote without having to worry about being shot, killed, jailed, beaten, or economically deprived has been realized. Unfortunately, 50 years later, Stokely Carmichael's dream of an end to racism has not been realized. Racism is still a problem in America. However, this speech is an inspiration in the fight against racism today. Even after his death, his words are heard in the present, and his dream is still a work in progress.